In this episode of Newt's World, the concept of evil is universal, ancient, and ever-present. In his new book, Confronting Evil, Bill O'Reilly recounts the deeds of the worst people in history: Genghis Khan, the Roman Emperor Caligula, Henry VIII, the collective evil of the 19th century slave traders and the 20th century robber barons, Stalin, Hitler, Mao, the Ayatollah Khomeini, Putin, the Mexican drug cartels. Collectively, these warlords, tyrants, businessmen, and criminals are directly responsible for the death and misery of hundreds of millions of people. Confronting Evil became an instant #1 New York Times bestseller. I'm really pleased to welcome my guest, my good friend, my colleague over the years, Bill O'Reilly. He is a trailblazing TV journalist who has experienced unprecedented success on cable news and in writing 20 national #1 best-selling nonfiction books. There are more than 18 million books in the Killing series in print. Bill, welcome, and thank you for joining me again on Newt's World.
My pleasure, Mr. Speaker. You're looking good. I'm glad everything's going well for you.
I have to tell you, 20 New York Times bestsellers. I've written a lot in my lifetime, but I have nothing like the number of books in print you do. With that kind of a record, you can write anything you want to. What made you want to tackle evil as your subject this time?
Well, I came off Confronting Presidents. We switched from the Killing series to Confronting, and that was the first big book, and it was a very big success, Presidents. And these books take a year to research and write. So this time last year, I was searching around for a subject. And I noticed that in the United States and all over the world, but particularly in our country, there was a rise in evil day to day. You could see it in the criminal justice system. You could see it the way people behave on the internet, even in the courts. Civility is gone. Plagiarism is crazy. People lie all the time. And I said, we're looking away from this. As a collective people, the American public is looking away. So let me write a book that's going to shock everybody into how much evil there has been and there is. That's why I put Putin and the Ayatollah on the cover. And maybe that will mobilize the good people to reassess how they deal with evil. So that was the goal, and then we carried it out, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, you chose 15 of the worst figures in history. How did you narrow the group down?
Every one of them relates to our lives today. That's how I narrowed it down. So you say, well, why isn't Saddam Hussein in there? Because he was localized. His evil was localized. What Saddam Hussein did doesn't influence us today. Pol Pot, Cambodia, slaughtered his own people, but it stayed within the borders of that country. These miscreants, every one of them, from Caligula on, influence the world today negatively. And that's the binding thread on them all.
One of the topics, which is the current, present example of evil, is the Mexican drug cartels. And you write, quote, "The suffering perpetuated by the Mexican drug gangs is incalculable, the evil unabated. It is doubtful this wicked industry will ever be fully eradicated." What do you think we should be doing to minimize the pain that they inflict on the American people?
During Donald Trump's first term, I had dinner with him. I know I'm name dropping here, but it's important to answer your question accurately. I had dinner with him in Florida, and we were talking about what he wanted to accomplish and how that might lead to a reelection. This is about 2018, I would say. I said to him, this fentanyl, Mexico corruption on the cartels, people aren't jumping up and down and screaming about it, but everybody I know has been affected by it. They've either lost family members or friends, or their neighborhoods have deteriorated, or they feel they can't go out to the bodega or the grocery store because they get mugged by a drug addict. This is big. I said, the only way that you can defeat that is to declare these cartels terror groups, just as you did with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and use the U.S. military to blow them off the face of the earth, but not in a way that's going to cause World War III. exactly what you did to ISIS. Obama and Trump really did a methodical job in dismantling ISIS. I wrote about that in Killing the Killers. I said, you got to bring the same kind of vision to knocking out those drug cartels. And he didn't do it in his first term, but now he is. And that's the only way to defeat these people. You got to kill them.
So when you see, for example, the 3 boats off Venezuela get wiped out, that fits how you would approach this whole thing. You have to literally take them apart.
That's right. And Venezuela is now a narco state, just like Panama was when you were a congressman. And Bush the Elder went in and kidnapped the president, Noriega, and just invaded Panama, took him out, because that whole thing was a narco state. That's what Venezuela is now. Now, Mexico's a little bit different. Mexico cannot control the cartels. The President Sheinbaum is afraid of them, physically afraid. Obrador was corrupt, in my opinion, as many of the Mexican presidents were. The military is corrupted down there, so we can't count on Mexico to do much. So we have to do it. But Venezuela is Trump's main target now, because he wants to get Maduro out of there. And Maduro, according to all of our investigative agencies, is making millions of dollars being paid off by the cocaine traffickers in South America. And so I expect to see more of that. You might even see military action by the U.S. on Venezuelan soil.
You describe Putin as an unstable individual who obviously does not value human life at all. How do you explain? It's almost like he is rejecting the reality of the United States and the Europeans steadily building more momentum to defeat him. And he seems almost locked into a campaign that has no future.
He's a psychopath. On 9/11, you may have noticed this. I was invited to Yankee Stadium by President Trump. Now, he doesn't invite me to have a couple of hot dogs and watch the game. I knew that he wanted to talk about a couple of things. I didn't know what. But his people called me, and I said, when you're invited by a president, as you well know, you have to go. So I went, and we talked about Putin. I handed him Confronting Evil. I said, look, I know you're busy, Mr. President, but you got to read this chapter on Putin, because he's not the same guy that you were dealing with the first time around. Because that always happens when you embrace evil, Mr. Speaker, when that is your primary goal in life, to hurt other people, you get worse. There's no rehab for evil. Every one of these tyrants I write about deteriorated and got worse and worse and worse. That has happened to Putin. So he's not the same guy, and that's a mistake that President Trump made. He felt that when he came back into office, he could contain Putin like he did the first time around. It's a different Putin. And now there's a self-destructive streak to him. Now, I think he can be contained if the Chinese cooperate, and that's a big if. But this guy is hell-bent on killing people. He's targeting hospitals and schools and little villages in Ukraine. That's not a military campaign. That's a terror campaign. And that's what he's doing. And the world needs to really assess Putin the way he is. Stop with the BS. This is a dangerous, dangerous individual because he has nuclear weapons.
Do you think if he, in fact, did feel like they were losing, that he would use tactical nuclear weapons?
Yes, he's capable of it. And he's built the Dock on the Black Sea, where underground, he's got an unbelievable complex that would protect him from any kind of nuclear fallout in Russia. He's got 2 big submarines that park themselves outside the Dhaka in the Black Sea. This is an amazing compound. And you don't do something like that by accident. Now, I'm not going to say that he wants to do this, because obviously this would destroy his whole foundation of power, any kind of a nuclear activity. But he's capable of it.
I think it explains part of why Trump has been very careful in pushing him, but not shoving him into desperation.
That's right. The key to this is China. And I was invited by the Beijing government in May to go there and to have a Q&A all the Qs were the Politburo of Communist China, and I was the A. And it was an amazing experience. The reason they invited me was YouTube. They watch me every night on YouTube. That's been a big game changer for the O'Reilly Enterprises. We have an independent news agency based on BillO'Reilly.com, and we, from the very beginning 8 years ago, have been exceedingly successful. But now with YouTube, we're worldwide. So she and the boys watch me. I got the invitation through Harvard because China does a lot of business with Harvard. They know I'm a graduate of the Kennedy School. And I went with my 21-year-old political science major son. It was an amazing experience. Part of what I suggested, you don't tell the communist government anything, you're polite and respectful, was that they should get out of the Putin business, because this is not a long-term positive for China. They listened very intently to that. And if Donald Trump can convince Xi to back away from Putin, that will really lessen the threat. But I'm not sure it's going to happen.
That would be a huge change in the whole balance of power in the world.
No doubt about it. And to watch that police state unfold before my eyes in Beijing, it's an amazing occurrence. In fact, Mao Zedong was the worst mass murderer the world has ever seen. About 20 million of his own people he killed, many through starvation. And we have that, of course, in Confronting Evil. And what he did was just beyond the pale. I've never seen anything like it. Starving babies, starving people to try to reorganize this crazy communist society the way he wanted it. But you go to China now, there's Mao's picture all over the place. Can you imagine an American killing 20 million of his fellow citizens and have his picture everywhere? Well, that's what's taking place in China. So we need to understand who our adversaries are, what their mindset is. But I don't think China is self-destructive. I think that they would like to prosper on their own terms, but I think détente is possible there.
I just have to ask you about Genghis Khan. In your judgment, why is he evil?
Okay, so Genghis Khan was way ahead of his time as far as being a tyrant. He took that to the level that it had never been even thought about. His empire extended from the Pacific Ocean of China, okay, all the way to Hungary. You look at a map, and the Mongol horsemen just devastated everybody because they were fighting on horseback and nobody else was. And Khan's orders were kill everybody. You don't need to take any prisoners. We don't want to feed them anyway. Just go in and behead everybody. Put the head on sticks and everybody will surrender. And that's pretty much what happened. So this guy was basically the forerunner of Hitler and everybody else. He conquered all of that territory. How he influences us today is that China is still paranoid of foreigners because of Genghis Khan. And one of the things that I did when I was in China was visit the Great Wall, which it is the most magnificent human structure ever created on this planet. You go there and your mouth goes, how could they have done this? And that wall was put up to keep the Mongol warriors out of China. But the mentality and the terror that Khan brought to China and everybody else still to this day resonates. The suspicion that so much bad can happen. It's an amazing thing, particularly in Asia, where Americans don't have a great frame of reference. That fear is still there.
When you studied him, what do you think there was about him? He's a slave at about 13, breaks loose, organizes his family, and then gradually builds this entire empire. What was it about him personally, you think, that enabled him to be such an extraordinary change agent?
He was a warrior. He was the toughest guy on the block. And the Mongols respected that. A lot of times he would actually lead the campaigns himself until he got older. Then he handed it over to his grandsons. But this guy, he was a savage, and he had no compassion. He had no weakness that the warriors could see. And so he was an energetic, charismatic leader. And most of them were. Not Mao. Mao was a coward. Mao hid in the mountains. He didn't fight Chiang Kai-shek. But Hitler got the Iron Cross in World War I. Okay? Stalin, he wasn't a warrior, but a really tough guy, Stalin. So you go down to these villains, and many of them are personally courageous. And Khan leads the league in that.
Now, in the modern era, one of the people you write about is the Ayatollah Khomeini. Why do you include him in this list of evil?
Because he lighted the fuse to terrorism, to the jihad. And it's an amazing story because the Persian people, as you well know, because you're a historian, not a backward country, educated people. And they had a terrible leader, okay, who they booted out, and that happens all the time, okay, the Shah of Iran. And we tell you in Confronting Evil how bad this Shah was. People didn't have any money, and this guy's got 18 residences, and he's flying in ducks from Austria to eat. So the Ayatollah comes in with the full compliance of the Persian people, all right? And he basically says, I'm running the show, no freedom, none, and we're going to kill as many infidels as we can. It was the same Hitler-esque stuff. Hitler wasn't deceiving anybody. He wrote a book, Mein Kampf. He said, look, you give me power, I'm going to kill everybody I don't like. That's what the Ayatollah did. The Ayatollah didn't walk in and go, yeah, wait a minute, maybe we'll negotiate or something. No. He goes, they're all going to die. And Persian goes, okay. So he gets power. He sets up this police state. But the police state doesn't just stay in Iran. It goes to Hamas. It goes to Hezbollah. It goes all over the place. Al-Qaeda. The money's coming in. The arms are coming in and kill the infidels. And who's the infidels? Well, USA and Israel, because the Jews, we got to kill all of them, of course. And so he's so insidious. And to this day, the world is dealing with what the Ayatollah Khomeini set up.
It's amazing. Look, I'm confident that Confronting Evil is not just going to be a popular book, because your books are always popular. I think it's an important book because we've had a very hard time with the word evil in the modern secular world. And yet, unless you're prepared to understand that evil does exist, you really can't develop any kind of serious understanding of what it takes to defeat it. In that sense, I think this is an important book, both an interesting book, but also in getting and reminding us that, there's some people in the world who really are truly evil, and you have to deal with them.
The problem for Americans is this: the amount of interest in religion, theology, has declined so dramatically in the last 50 years that there are a number of Americans who don't even believe there's evil. Everybody's got an excuse. All right, there's always no, you can't punish the violent criminal because it's society's fault. All right, so once you get a population that looks away, it doesn't mitigate evil, even in their own families. Here's the best example I can give you. Charlie Kirk is assassinated. That's an individual evil act. No debate. Okay. His father in Utah, St. George, Utah, and I've been there, very nice town, small, is a sheriff's deputy for many, many years. He tells the press, the father tells the press, my son became mentally ill, deteriorated, and the family could see it because he was on the dark recesses of social media, of the internet, and we could see it. So my question, and I would say this with all sensitivity, is why wasn't there an intervention? Why didn't you do something or bring it to a level where it was hard for your son to act out? I'm sure the answer, and again, I believe that family, and that was one of the things that I suggested to President Trump at Yankee Stadium. I said, you got to mention the alleged assassin's family. Their lives are, that's what evil does. Evil metastasizes and destroys everything in its wake, including the assassin's family. And Trump did. He mentioned them. Okay. But the vivid description of the decline of this mentally ill person to kill Charlie Kirk was noticed. And I submit to you that most Americans see evil and turn away from it because it's unpleasant. They don't want to get involved. It's not my purview. It's not my responsibility. It is.
Well, I mean, if you watch the 4-minute video of the young Ukrainian woman who was stabbed to death on the train in Charlotte, not a single person calls 911. Not a single person tries to help her. If the woman sitting next to her simply helped, she might well have been alive. I mean, it's an astonishing comment on the degree to which any sense of society has broken down. And this poor young woman who'd come to America to escape the dangers of Ukraine ends up getting killed by a total stranger for no reason. And the total stranger says openly, look, I had evil in my head and it forced me to do it, and says, I'm crazy.
I took that story 2 steps further. Number one, I understand the people on the bus were afraid. I got it. The guy had a knife. They're afraid. That's natural. I would have done something. You would have done something, but we're different people. But the judge who let that guy out on the street, that judge still sitting there in North Carolina. That judge should have been removed immediately by the governor. Immediately suspended. That's what I mean. The governor looked away from it. It's evil to put dangerous people out on the street when you don't have to. That's evil. So the book was written with this passion that if we continue down this road of apathy, of cowardice, of denial, evil's going to grow and grow quickly.
You have been amazing in understanding the new technologies, the new communication systems. Could you just talk for a minute or two about the whole concept of no-spin news and the way that BillO'Reilly.com has become such a remarkable success?
Well, it's an evolution. I've been in the business 50 years, okay? You've been in politics longer than I've been in journalism, but I'm the last man standing from my journalism class at Boston University. And all the people that I worked with throughout the decades, they're all retired, playing pickleball, whatever they do. I'm still here. The only one, really. Brit Hume probably parallels me a little bit. And what I always wanted to do with my life was tell the truth. That's it. So that when I got in a position of responsibility by anchoring broadcasts, it was a very simple equation. Tell the truth. And the people will respond to that. That's exactly what happened. Don't be a weasel. Don't be BS. Don't equivocate. Come to a conclusion. Back it up as best you can. That's what journalism is supposed to be. And let it fly. And it worked. What happened to me was that once I left the corporate structure, and I should have done it much earlier, because the corporate structure and Bill O'Reilly are not compatible. I don't want people telling me what to do, number one. I know what to do, all right? I've been to 86 countries. I've covered 4 wars. I know what it's about, and I'm a historian to boot. So I don't want some guy named Randy who doesn't know anything saying, never been compatible. Once the technology was developed whereby I could get my message across without the big corporate umbrella, bang. And I hired great people, a lot of young people, trained them like Navy SEALs to get through me. Everybody I trained at Fox News is now either producing, they're all successful. Because when the media company sees O'Reilly factor, they know to get through me, it's like the Marines. I mean, you have to have the goods. But what stuns me now is that I can deliver my message to Mongolia, to everywhere. All right? I have to be honest and say I did not anticipate that when I started BillO'Reilly.com and the No Spin News. I did know I'd be successful because I took so many people away from the cable universe and the network universe because they still had an interest in what I wanted to say. I believe, and this goes back to my Roman Catholic upbringing, I believe I'm here for a reason. I'm on this planet for a reason, that I've been given certain talent, and that my obligation is to use the talent for as much good as I can. It's a simple equation, but that's what Catholicism is. You have a decision. You can either try to be good or bad or evil. Good or evil. You got to choose. And based upon what you do choose, you'll be either rewarded or damned. That's it. That's what it is. So a lot of it isn't me. I believe that I've been directed to do this stuff. I mean, I should be in a jar someplace with all I've been through. But I'm here and I'm kind of still feisty. And I don't think it's me. I think that this is preordained.
And you have the great virtue that you do something you love. And I think that keeps people healthier and allows them to stay active far longer than if you had retired and tried to play pickleball.
Look, there is a rhythm to life. A lot of younger people, because they never get this kind of instruction in school, or a lot of times they have bad parents, and there's a rhythm to life. Some of it, the rhythm is real tough, real bad. Bad things happen to everybody. And you have to be persistent. You have to get up. And everybody gets it. Nobody escapes. But if you're genuinely a good person and you want to help your country, your family, whatever, you'll get a chance to do that. But then it's out of your hands. You do the best that you can.
I mean, you are a great example for people that if you're persistent, if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to do new things, who would have thought when you had the highest rated show on cable news that you would turn around and then have 20 consecutive New York Times bestsellers? And then the process, by the way, also go on this emerging technology at YouTube and now have a worldwide audience. You have evolved with the world around you in ways that I find very admirable, which is why I always like doing a podcast with you.
One more thing, though, and this is important for all of your listeners. A lot of evil people try to derail me. And I didn't quite figure that out as quickly as I should have. Big money behind it, because they saw me as a threat to what they were up to. Across the board, we got to get this guy. And if you look throughout history, Lincoln, I could name 10 of them that were really, really solid individuals, always at risk, always. Evil wanted to take them down. All of them. And that is another factor in why there aren't more good people that step up and run for office or write things or whatever, because they're afraid. Because they're going to come after you. The evildoers are going to come after you. They came after me big time. I fought them and I won. But boy, was it painful. And now you have corporations, entire media corporations, powerful, powerful people. Disney is the best example, that go out of their way to enable evil, to allow things they never should allow. That's totally different than what had happened in the past, when corporations were basically never benign, but they were neutral. Now they're promoting crap that's destructive. And if you're on the other side of that, they cancel you. So I can't get on any of the networks to talk about my book, even though it's the best-selling book in the country. They won't put me on. That is dangerous, because that's the real assault on freedom of speech, not Kimmel and Colbert. These are just piffles, all right? The real is censorship by the corporate media, and that I'm trying to expose it, and people are starting to figure it out, That's the real danger.
You are a remarkable investigative reporter, a great historian, a terrific writer, and a very inventive guy. I want to thank you for joining me. As you know, I really value your friendship. Your new book, the best-selling Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst, is available now on Amazon and in bookstores everywhere. And our listeners can catch up with everything you are doing, including No Spin News, at BillO'Reilly.com. So thank you, Bill, for joining me.
Always a pleasure, Mr. Speaker. Stay well. The country needs you.
Thank you to my guest, Bill O'Reilly. You can get a link to buy his new book, Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst, on our show page at newtworld.com. Newt's World is produced by Gingrich 360 and iHeartMedia. Our executive producer is Garnsey Sloan. Our researcher is Rachel Peterson. The artwork for the show was created by Steve Pendley. Special thanks to the team at Gingrich 360. If you've been enjoying Newt's World, I hope you'll go to Apple Podcasts and both rate us with 5 stars and give us a review so others can learn what it's all about. Right now, listeners of Newt's World can sign up for my 3 free weekly columns at Gingrich360.com/newsletter. I'm Newt Gingrich. This is Newt's World.